You open your eyes beneath a ceiling painted like the sky. But it's not the sky. It's a lie. Cherubs drift across clouds that never move. Gold frames cage every inch of the walls. And around you, the air smells not of mother's milk or earth, but of rosewater, powder, and rot. You are Louis, but not yet the king, not yet the monster. It is the year 1715. France exhales as Louis XIV, the Sun King, dies in agony. His leg blackened by gangrene, his empire cracked with debt and decay. His great-grandson, you, becomes the new hope. Just 5 years old. Barely old enough to speak a full sentence, but already they call you le bien-aimé, the beloved. You do not remember your mother's arms. She died before you were 2. You do not remember your father's voice. He was gone even earlier. You belong to the state now, the crown, the church, the throne. You are raised by ghosts in embroidered shoes. The Château de Versailles is not a home, it is a gilded cage. You wake to the rustle of silk. Servants tiptoe like insects, wiping your chamber pot before you even know you've soiled yourself. Every word you speak is recorded, every meal calculated. You are weighed weekly like livestock. A royal tutor whispers in Latin, even as you blink back tears, hungry for someone to simply hold your hand. They dress you in lace. They dust your cheeks with powder. They tell you not to cry. A king must never cry. Outside your window, France starves. Grain prices soar. Fields rot. But inside your palace, the chandeliers are cleaned with champagne. Every corner hides a whisper. The walls do not echo with love, only with ambition. Your regent, Philippe II, Duke of Orléans, smiles with thin lips and drinks with thick thirst. He does not love you. He uses you. Your body is a bridge to power and he walks it gladly. At night, as the candles burn low, he invites nobles to feast on meats and sins while you sleep under painted ceilings, dreaming of faces you cannot name. One night you wake to music, a harpsichord echoing like bones cracking under velvet. You creep down the corridor and peer through a keyhole. What you see will stay with you forever. Powdered wigs, bare chests, drunken laughter, women draped across lapels like scarves. A ritual of pleasure, not meant for your eyes, but the court is watching you too. They whisper about your skin, pale like porcelain, almost too perfect. One courtier writes, "The boy is touched by God." Another calls you a cherub carved of ivory. But you do not feel divine. You feel hollow. Priests bless you daily. They touch your forehead, your chest, your hands. You are told that your blood is sacred. Your veins flow with the spirit of St. Louis, the Holy King. But you've never met this spirit. You've only met cold beds and colder eyes. By age 8, you understand your role: to smile, to sit, to obey, not to think, never to feel. And yet, something festers. You notice how the nobles bow to you, but mock you behind tapestries. They call you le petit roi, the little king. They fear the crown, not the boy beneath it. They fear the echo of Louis XIV, not the silence you offer. In their hearts, they mourn the Sun King. In their mouths, they praise his shadow. The old king ruled with fire, but you are a flickering candle in a palace of wind. At 10, you are coronated. Not in a cathedral, but in a theater of blood. The crown weighs more than your head. They place it upon you as if it might crush you, and perhaps, secretly, they hope it will. You kneel before the altar. The bishop anoints you with holy oil, whispering, "You are God's chosen." But you do not feel chosen. You feel infected. The rituals grow stranger. You are told never to turn your back to the court, never to eat in private. Even your bowel movements are watched by nobles hoping to win favor. A ritual called la chaise percée, where men of rank debate politics while you defecate. Your privacy is peeled away, layer by layer, like skin from a saint. Your dreams twist. You begin to see your grandfather in the corners, Louis XIV, towering, glowing, judging. He speaks in riddles. His golden shoes bleed as he walks. He whispers, "Rule as I did, or rot." You wake drenched in sweat, but the servants only adjust your collar and tell you to smile. The perfumed cage must look beautiful, even if it suffocates you. You become a teenager with too many titles and not enough affection. They parade you through Paris, dressed like a doll. Commoners cheer, but their eyes betray them. Hope has turned to resentment. They see your carriage lined with silk while their children beg for moldy bread. Your face is painted, but your hands are soft. You've never touched soil, never touched pain. The people know it, and soon, so will you. In the distance, France groans. The Enlightenment begins to stir. Voltaire sharpens his pen. Rousseau whispers of equality. But you remain untouched, wrapped in a cocoon of ritual and denial. A god in a glass box. At 15, they marry you to a Polish girl, Marie Leszczyńska. You do not love her. You hardly speak the same language. But love isn't required, only heirs. She becomes another mirror in the hall, another voice you don't recognize, and you begin to look elsewhere, toward the women at court, toward pleasure, toward escape, but even desire becomes a performance. Your first mistress is selected by committee. She is measured for temperament, fertility, and beauty, like a prized mare. You do not choose her. She is chosen for you. The perfumed cage does not break, it only grows more fragrant. And while you indulge, France decays. The taxes grow. The harvests fail. Disease spreads. In the hospitals of Paris, smallpox ravages the poor. In the slums, rats chew through cradles. In the countryside, entire families disappear into starvation. But at Versailles, you dance. You feast. You laugh. Your apathy becomes armor. You learn not to look, not to feel. The priests call it divine distance, but it is just cowardice, lacquered in gold. You begin to believe your own myth, that the king is not a man, that suffering cannot reach you, that your body will not rot, but beneath your powdered skin, something stirs. A memory, a sickness, a slow corrosion, the same rot that claimed your ancestors, the same rot that waits, patient as ever. You are Louis XV, the beloved, but the people are beginning to forget why. The smiles at court become thinner, the bows slower, the air grows stale. Even the mirrors in Versailles, once clean, now blur with dust and fingerprints. You no longer see a cherub, you see a ghost. And so, the chapter closes not with death, but with decay, not with a monster, but with the making of one. You were born into velvet and whispers, but no one told you that velvet burns. No one warned you that the whispers lie. They crowned you in perfume, but inside the cage, the rot had already begun. You enter Versailles at twilight. The halls no longer whisper prayers, they purr with perfume and breathless sighs. The chandeliers drip with crystals and deceit. Beneath the gold leaf ceilings, something feral stirs. Powdered wigs mask sweating scalps. Rouge hides the pallor of illness. And everywhere, flesh glows beneath lace like the promise of forbidden fruit. You are Louis XV now, not the boy king, not the ghost in the cage. You are grown, crowned, worshipped, feared, and utterly alone. It is 1745. The Palace of Versailles is no longer the House of Kings. It has become your theater of appetite. Each night, you move through the Hall of Mirrors like a phantom wrapped in velvet. The courtiers part as you pass, powdered men with brittle grins, women dripping in silks, all of them holding their breath, not out of reverence, but fear. You are no longer le bien-aimé, not to them, not to France, They know your hunger, and they feed it. You first see her at a masked ball, Jeanne Antoinette Poisson, later known as Madame de Pompadour, a commoner by blood, a courtesan by profession, a queen by seduction. She is draped in pale blue and silver, her face painted like porcelain death. She dances not like a woman, but like a spell, pulling you in, binding you with her laughter. She becomes more than a mistress. She becomes your oracle. For nearly 20 years, Pompadour will guide you, not just in bed, but in art, war, diplomacy. But even she cannot touch the emptiness. Even she cannot fill the void inside you, the hollowness left by a childhood smothered in ritual and neglect. So you turn to something darker. The Parc aux Cerfs, the Deer Park, a name spoken only in shadows. It is not on the official maps of Versailles. It lies tucked behind the Petit Trianon, quiet and walled, a private estate purchased with royal gold but built on silence. Inside, rooms are furnished in crimson and ivory. The curtains are always drawn. The air is always sweet, and the girls are always young. 14, 13, sometimes even 12. They are brought in carriages at night, covered in cloaks. Their families, desperate, hungry, are paid in francs and false promises. She will be a lady in waiting, they are told. She will serve the queen. They do not know she will serve only one man, you. The chambermaids bathe the girls in rosewater. Their pubic hair is shaved, their skin is powdered. They are instructed not to speak unless spoken to. They are given silk nightgowns and sweetened milk. Then they wait. For the king. For you. Sometimes you stay for an hour. Sometimes for a week. You do not know their names. You rename them, like pets. There is a girl named Marie-Louise O'Murphy, auburn hair, freckled cheeks, age 14. You paint her as a reclining nude, her eyes vacant. The court calls her La Morphise. To you, she is just another flavor, another whisper in the bed. You discard her after a year. She is too old now, too knowing. Another girl is sent in her place. Behind the walls, rumors breed like mold. Parisians whisper about the Deer Park. They speak of girls who returned broken, bruised, silent. Some never returned at all. In taverns, old women mutter, "He feeds on innocence. He bathes in their youth." You hear the rumors. You do not care. You bathe in milk and laughter. You smell of lilacs and sweat. One night, a servant dies. A chambermaid collapses near the queen's quarters, her body blistered with sores. The doctor calls it syphilis gallica, the French disease. But you know where it came from. It came from you. You had visited the Deer Park that week. You had not worn protection. You never do. The rot begins. Your doctors prescribe mercury vapor and leeches. They believe in balance, not bacteria. Your gums bleed, your bones ache, but you continue. You must. Desire is your shield. Flesh is your cathedral. Madame de Pompadour sees the lesions. She weeps behind her fan. You dismiss her. The king does not weep, you say, but your body is weeping in silence. You age behind the mask of youth. To the public, you remain radiant, the lover king, the patron of arts, the golden monarch. But in private, your legs tremble. Your urine turns black. You sleep only with laudanum. Some days, you cannot rise. You beg for the scent of lavender just to mask the stink of your own breath. Your doctors say nothing. Your priests pray louder. The war in the colonies goes badly. The 7 Years' War drains your coffers. France bleeds in silence. But at Versailles, the parties never end. Your court becomes theater. Courtiers paint their smallpox scars white, like snowflakes of decay. Teeth fall out during banquets. Women wear false beauty patches shaped like stars to hide their ulcers. Men die of fever mid-conversation and are dragged away silently. No one reacts. This is normal now. This is your kingdom. One courtier writes, Versailles smells of musk, powders, and rot. The king is devouring himself in women, and we are the flies on his feast. Pompadour dies in 1764. You do not attend her funeral. You say it is too painful. But truly, you are afraid? Afraid to see death in her face. Afraid to see your future carved into her features. Without her, the court rots faster. You replace her with girls too young to remember her name. The people begin to chant in the streets, "Down with the dear king." No more silver for flesh. Give bread, not brothels. But you do not hear them. The windows of Versailles are thick, and you are wrapped in flesh and powder. The irony is cruel. You bathe daily, yet stink of infection. You touch dozens of bodies, yet die in isolation. You eat 5 courses a night, while Paris chews on bone broth. The flesh that once soothed you now betrays you. It festers, it oozes, it hungers. You are no longer a king. You are a vessel, a host for disease, excess, and memory. They call you le mal-aimé now, the hated one, the cursed one. In 1773, your own daughter faints at your approach. She claims the smell made her dizzy. Your physicians offer herbs. Your advisors offer silence. But you know. One day, a letter arrives from a Paris surgeon. It reads, "Sire, there are signs of an epidemic. We beg you to stop the nightly transports. The infection spreads. It clings to skin. It blooms in blood. You burn the letter. You summon another girl. The Parc aux Cerfs will remain open until your death. No one shuts the door. No one says no. Not to the king. Not to the beast wrapped in silk." And so this chapter ends not with a fall, but with a slow, crawling descent. You, Louis XV, the once beloved, are now a man devoured by his own indulgence, a court of flesh, a crown of ulcers, a kingdom soaked in powder and pus. The rot has begun, and it smells sweet. You feel it before you see it. A shiver, a slow, crawling ache behind the eyes, a cough that doesn't quite go away. May 1774. Versailles is waking into spring. The gardens bloom with unnatural beauty. Tulips stretch like painted fingers beneath powdered skies. The fountains sing. The courtiers dance. But somewhere in the lungs of the king, something ancient stirs. It begins as a whisper in your chest. You brush it off. You've survived worse. You are Louis XV. You have tasted every fruit. You have swallowed sin like honey. You have danced through war, plague, scandal. You've lived 64 years wrapped in flesh, perfume, and denial. But now the air tastes different. Now the mirror winces when you pass. Now death does not knock. It breathes through you. You cough again. A servant notices. She stares too long. You dismiss her. But within days, the whispers multiply. Physicians hover. Their brows tighten. Bloodletting is ordered. Leeches are summoned. Your skin is paler. Your body, heavier. You sweat through your linens at night. Your breath becomes sour. Then the spots appear. First on your chest, then your groin, your neck, your face, small, pink, innocent looking. At first, until they swell, until they blister, until they rupture. The diagnosis comes with silence. Variola major, smallpox, the great equalizer, the killer of kings and beggars alike. You had survived it once, as a child, but then you were small and strong and untouched by decades of indulgence. Now, your flesh is soft, your blood thick, your spirit dimmed by years of rot. And smallpox, it remembers. They cover the mirrors, not out of superstition, out of mercy. Your face no longer resembles the man they praised. Your skin bubbles and breaks. Your eyelids swell shut. Pus leaks from your gums. Your tongue blackens. Your courtiers stop visiting. Your mistresses vanish. The priests pray from outside the door. Inside, you lie alone. The royal physicians, Lemonnier, Lasson, argue like rats in silk. One wants more bleeding. The other demands cooling cloths. A third suggests mercury vapor. None of them can help. You scream at night, moan by day. The bedsheets rot beneath you. The ulcers spread from face to chest to groin. Your genitals swell to grotesque proportions, blistered and oozing. You scratch until you bleed. You beg for laudanum. You weep into pillows stained red and yellow. Still, no one comes close. They fear the scent. They fear the look of you. They fear the plague. You try to speak, to command, to curse, to cry, but your tongue splits, your throat burns, your words turn to gurgles, then silence. The court outside shuffles on, pretending the king still reigns. But inside this chamber, your body becomes a cathedral of suffering. You have become meat, royal, rotting meat, wrapped in gold sheets and forgotten prayers. They say smallpox is a fire inside the blood. You feel it. Each pustule is a burning coal. Each breath a blade. You hallucinate. You see Pompadour's face, half melted, smiling, whispering, "I warned you." You see girls from the deer park. They watch you with hollow eyes. One of them laughs. You try to scream. You cannot. Outside, France waits. They know something is wrong. They've seen the black drapes appear on palace windows. They hear fewer carriages. They smell the perfume wafting from behind the gates. Too strong, too frequent, as if masking rot. Word spreads. The king is dying. The king is cursed. The king is being eaten alive. Inside the chamber, the final rituals begin. Your valet, Dominique Guillaume Lebel, refuses to touch you. He wears gloves soaked in vinegar. He turns his face away. He no longer bows. There's no majesty left, only disease. Your sheets are changed daily. Still, they stink. You soil yourself. You no longer care. You bleed from places no one dares mention. Gangrene sets in. Your feet blacken. Your fingertips rot. One morning, a physician tries to turn you. Your skin tears. Your scream shakes the walls. But still, you remain alive and conscious. You feel everything. That is the cruelest part. There is no coma, no escape, only awareness of pain, of decay, of the fact that even the rats have abandoned you. The air in your chamber is thick, not with incense, not with prayer, but with disease. A priest tries to enter. He vomits. He is led away. No last rites, no comfort, just rot. They bring your grandson, Louis Auguste, the future Louis XVI, to the doorway. He does not enter. He covers his nose. He stares. He says nothing. You wonder, does he see a king or a warning? You begin to whisper to yourself, fragments of Latin prayers, pieces of old songs, your mother's name. You do not know what year it is, what time, what day. You know only that you are dying, slowly, publicly, alone. On May 10th, 1774, the breath finally stops, not with drama, not with a gasp, but with a rattle, a low, wet sigh, and silence. You, Louis XV, once le bien-aimé, the beloved, die as the most hated man in France, not from a sword, not from poison, but from a pox, a curse that blistered your soul before it blistered your flesh. They do not mourn. The court does not weep. The streets of Paris do not fall silent. Instead, candles are lit in celebration. Wine is poured. The people shout. The rotting pig is dead. Down with the deer king, children laugh. Bells ring, not in grief, but in relief. Your body is so disfigured that no public display is allowed. You're placed in a lead-lined coffin, sealed quickly, sprinkled with lime, perfumed with lavender and desperation. Still, the stench leaks through. One of the guards at your chamber writes in his diary, "The king is more corpse than man. The flies do not wait." No nobles volunteer to carry your casket. No peasants kneel. Even the priests hesitate. Your body is dragged to Saint Denis under cover of night. No procession, no triumph, only whispers. Even in death they fear infection. They bury you beside your ancestors, Louis XIV, Louis XIII, kings who died with pride, kings who stood tall. You are lowered into the earth with a groan of stone and metal. Your coffin hisses as it settles. It sounds like breathing. It sounds like the plague still waits inside. And so ends the reign of Louis XV, a man who fed on flesh, who ruled with perfume and pleasure, who was crowned in gold and died in pus. The divine right had become divine rot. The body that ruled France had become a warning, a prophecy. But the plague did not stop with you. It seeped into history, into the bones of your grandson, into the veins of a nation. And the revolution, that hadn't yet come, would remember the scent of your death. Because death did not knock at Versailles, it entered with a cough, a chill, and kissed the king on the lips. You stand in the hall of mirrors, but the mirrors are veiled now. The chandeliers are dimmed. The air is thick, not with incense, but with rot. A king has died, and no one dares to say his name. May 10th, 1774. You are in Versailles, but it no longer glows. The palace reeks of camphor and fear. Behind the gilded doors of the king's chamber, something festers, something holy, something obscene. Louis XV is dead, but his corpse, it does not rest. It simmers, it boils, it becomes something else. You were there when he died, when the coughing stopped, when the blackened lips parted for the last time, when the royal bladder released and soaked through the silk bedding. But death didn't clean him. Death made him worse. Within hours, the pustules that lined his neck burst. His eyes swelled shut, then began to leak. His stomach ballooned with gases. His jaw stiffened, mouth stuck open in a silent scream. He had been a man, a monarch, a myth. Now he was a carcass. They call for the embalmers. They refuse. They summon the priests. They retch and pray from the hall. The Grand Almoner of France, a man who had anointed dozens of nobles, shakes his head and mutters, "Even God cannot breathe in there." The chambermaids draw back in horror. The guards take turns standing watch, 5 minutes at a time. One faints, another vomits, a third runs and never returns. The king's chamber is sealed, but the scent seeps through the cracks. The smell of royal flesh, decomposing faster than any commoner's, drifts into the velvet corridors like a haunting, like a curse. A servant named Etienne writes in his diary, "You could not see his face for the flies. They moved in waves like sea tide over meat. They call it the funeral of flies, a court of insects attending a king. Some say it was justice. Others say it was plague. All agree. It was unforgettable. There would be no public viewing, no final blessing, no chance for a nation to say goodbye. He is wrapped not in royal robes, but in white linen soaked in wine and vinegar. The linen turns brown within hours. The wine cannot mask the infection. Neither can the perfume. They try anyway. Gallons of rose water, barrels of lavender oil, a sea of crushed jasmine. It only makes it worse. The stench becomes sweet and sickly, a funeral bouquet rotting in the summer heat. By midnight, the body is warping. The belly is hard as stone, the limbs stiff and bloated, the skin weeping. They place him in a lead coffin, not from tradition, from desperation. The lid is hammered shut with shaking hands, but even the lid cannot hold him. By morning, the outside of the coffin is slick, something leaks. A final decree is whispered, bury him. Now, no procession, no delay, no cannon fire, no white horses, No bells, only silence. The hearse is prepared in secret, drawn by 4 black horses. Their eyes are wild. They smell it too. As the coffin is loaded, one horse rears and kicks. Another refuses to move. A stable boy is trampled. Blood stains the gravel. It's said the horses resisted the scent of the dead king more than any battle. Some call it a sign. Others call it instinct. The road to Saint Denis is wet with rain and whispers. You ride behind the carriage, not in mourning, but in obligation. A noble, a courtier, a witness. The wheels rattle over cobblestones. The carriage moans under the coffin's weight. No crowds gather. No peasants throw flowers. Only children peek from behind shutters. Some spit. One throws a crust of bread. A woman near the roadside crosses herself and mutters, "Let the worms judge him." You do not stop her. You cannot. At the gates of the Basilica of Saint-Denis, the burial ground of French kings, the clergy wait, but not with open arms, with gloves and scarves and cloth pressed to their mouths. They do not chant. They do not sing. They do not open the doors wide. Instead, they signal the gravediggers, hired men, dirty hands, blank eyes. They lower the coffin with ropes soaked in vinegar. Even the tomb seems to flinch. The lid is never reopened. There is no death mask made, no artist summoned, no sculptor called. The last face of Louis XV is lost forever, not in marble, but in rot. You watch from the back of the crypt. The stone slides over the opening. The chains creak. The lock clinks. A king has been buried. No applause, no legacy, no peace. You leave the tomb with stained gloves and no words. The rain has stopped, but Versailles feels colder. The air hangs heavy. The ghosts are closer now. Back in Paris, the people celebrate. Wine is spilled in the gutters. Fiddles are played in alleyways. Bread is thrown to beggars. A woman sings, "The pig is dead." Let the kingdom breathe. A butcher scrawls on his shop window, "Fresh meat, but not royal." Even in death he is mocked. Even in death he is feared. In Versailles, the servants rip the sheets from the bed. The mattress is burned. The chamber scrubbed with lime and ash. The walls are repainted. The tapestries removed. They do not want to remember. They want to erase, but they cannot. Because the memory lingers, in the floorboards, in the portraits, in the air. Some say the king's ghost walks the garden at dusk, not in royal robes, but in bandages and boils. Some say they still smell him in the south wing. Lavender, mixed with blood. His grandson, Louis Auguste, ascends the throne. He inherits not only a crown, but a curse. The people watch him closely. They remember the funeral. They remember the flies. And you remember the sound. Not of mourning, not of prayer, but of buzzing. The sound of insects circling a corpse. The sound of decay crowned in silence. The sound of monarchy collapsing. This was not a funeral. It was an exorcism, not a farewell, a warning, a divine right buried in disease. Louis XV, the beloved no more, not a king entombed in splendor, but a man sealed in shame. The golden age ended with the stench of a rotting body and a trail of flies that still circles through history.